Hey guys, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by Ash Paulson and our special guest, Ted ExandShadow Wiesen from BrainScratchComms. I thought I'd have Ted join us to talk about the newest information that's been released about Pokémon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, since he actually has a much better background with the original games than either of us. So, before we get started, why don't you introduce yourself, Ted?
Hello, I'm Ted. I work with BrainScratchComms, which is a video game commentary group where we talk over video games, both obscure and more well-known. We've done a couple of Pokemon titles in the past. I also have my own Let's Play channel, but I don't really touch that an awful lot, so I don't even know why I bothered bringing that one up. Anyway, I've been a Pokemon fan for basically as long as I've been playing video games. So, I did play an awful lot of Gen 3 back in the day. I have a soft spot for it, even if it's not exactly my favorite, but I was pretty pumped when I saw the announcement for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, so I'm glad to be here to talk about it with you guys today.
Great to have you. So I guess that brings up a good factor. Just, when we all heard about the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire releases, Ash, you and I were just sort of like, well, we saw it coming, it's nice to see, but we didn't have that real connection, did we?
Well, no, I was actually specifically very excited, and now the secret basis thing, no, but the remakes for Generation 3, I was actually really excited because Gen 3 is actually my favorite gen.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't quite remember that.
Yeah, no, I mentioned that in the previous discussion about it too, but no, I loved, I played the hell out of Pokemon Emerald when I was younger, so it's actually, I think, a pretty unpopular opinion, but I adore Gen 3.
Gen 3 was where I got out of Pokemon, and I came back after I played Gen 4. So it's sort of like this weird thing where I played it, but I don't have like a lot of familiarity with it because I didn't really play it just to play it. I just, I pretty much rushed through the game, if you could say that, because I didn't really explore any of the real side content because I just wanted to see the new Pokemon, just see how the game played. Didn't really focus much on it, but I guess that's a completely different story for you, Hunted.
Yeah, I was pretty big into Pokemon in Gen 1, back when it first came out. That's what got me into video games in the first place. I played Gen 2 basically until the buttons on my Game Boy Color came off. Gen 3 is sort of a weird game for me because I played it back when it first came out, and like Pokemon Sapphire specifically, and I wasn't completely into it, but about a year later, I had broken my hand before the summer vacation, which meant I was stuck inside for that entire summer, and the only game I could basically play with only one hand was Pokemon, and then I sort of grew to love Gen 3 an awful lot. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire just, I do think that they have a little bit of fine-tuning needed, which is part of why I'm excited for this remake. But I do think that there is a ton of potential in there, and I do think that some of the hate it gets is a little bit unjustified. So, yeah, I do enjoy Gen 3 quite a bit. In fact, the very short period of time where I did competitive battling was with Gen 3. So, it's got that going for me, too, I suppose.
Yeah, I've heard quite often on Brain Scratch you said that you thought Gen 3 had the most balanced, basically, stats between all the Pokemon. Like, they felt like the battle system was at its best in Gen 3.
Yeah, I do. Part of that might be due to, personal bias, but I think, if you look at the numbers, I will say that Gen 3 is probably where it's at its most balanced as well as being most interesting, because I think if you, technically look at where the numbers lie, Gen 2 might be a little bit more balanced, but I think with, abilities and stuff, which was added in the original Gen 3, I think it's just a little bit more interesting metagame overall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never gotten into competitive battling, and I don't think you have either, right, Ash?
No, I haven't. I really just play the games for the experience. I like the journey. I like the Pokemon designs. I just I'll basically play through the main game and do some of the side or post-game content, but once I did fill out the Pokédex in Gen 4, but I've never been a competitive battler.
Yeah, that's basically how I do it now, I just sort of play through the games, because with 700 Pokemon, it's just too dense for me to competitive battle at this point.
Yeah, I haven't even filled out my Pokédex since maybe Gen 2. Yeah, Gen 2 was the last time I completely filled the Pokédex. Haven't even attempted it since, mainly because it's just so hard to get all of them in. I think it's a little easier nowadays, but it's still just a huge time commitment, and the reward for it isn't that great.
Yeah.
So I never really worried about it. But I guess one of the big things that have, that's most obvious about this remake is obviously there's a lot of redesigns happening with the game itself. Like, it's not just a pure remake. Each of the characters are getting redesigned and they're being changed in some way. Steven Stone has a new subplot now where he's interested in Mega Evolution. What are you guys' thoughts on those redesigns?
I kind of figured it would happen. I mean, I know back when the Gen 3 remakes were still rumored, or just rumors, people were like, oh, they're not going to introduce Mega Evolution into it because that was before Mega Evolution happened. And I'm like, no, they're totally going to, because Mega Evolution is a huge thing going forward, and they did it with the Pokemon Origins anime, and they're going to do it with the Gen 3 remakes, and it ended up being true. And I'm okay with it. I mean, they've always kind of played somewhat hard or fast and loose with the Pokemon timeline anyway, so I'm okay with them kind of redesigning things and repurposing them to include things like Mega Evolution that weren't introduced until after Gen 3 originally.
Yeah, I'd have to basically agree. Like, for what it's worth, I really enjoy the new artwork for all the gym leaders and trainers and whatnot. That Ken Sugimori, I apologize if I mispronounced that. But he's been the artist for Pokemon ever since the beginning, if I remember correctly. And I really do enjoy a lot of the redesigned artwork that went around, like, for especially the gym leader art. I feel like it's an awful lot more expressive now than it was in the original game, although that's to be expected with 3 extra generations of hardware. Especially stuff like Mega Evolution, I think, adds an awful lot to the world as well, because, again, like you, Ash, I knew that they were going to bring Mega Evolution into the game in some way, because, it's just to be expected, it's something to get the fan base hyped about it, especially since, if I remember correctly, there weren't an awful lot of Gen 3 Pokemon with Mega Evolutions in X and Y. What's surprising me, though, is I'm just sort of wondering how you get those Mega Evolutions into X and Y, or do you just have to sort of trade them in, and if you don't own Ruby and Sapphire, you're just not going to get a Mega Metagross at all?
That's going to be the big question here, because I assume that you just get the new Mega Bangle at some point during the game, and you just trade in the others eventually, and that's how you it's basically a work like X and Y, where as you explore the game, you'll find places where you can find the Mega Stones and go through with that, because they seem to be a key point. They're really pushing the fact that of course, your starter Pokemon will be able to Mega Evolve. So I think it's probably just going to be integrated in the game, probably related to the Steven Stone subplot, since he has been confirmed to have a Mega Evolution. 2 of them, actually. I believe Mega Charizard X, and I believe he's the owner of Mega Metagross. I really do think they're sort of more so integrating it in, which, it works for me. I don't mind the fact that they're sort of changing it just to introduce these new elements. It keeps it fresh for people who've played it over and over again.
That's totally true, and I really like what they've done with Mega Metagross as well. I mean, I've always seen Metagross as kind of like a heavy, ground-based Pokemon that, he's just really large and chunky, but he actually floats in his Mega form, which is really cool.
Yeah, he just looks really, really awesome. Like, with the 4 gigantic claws, he just looks like he could just rip anything to shreds. It's kind of like having a Wolverine, but twice, with the way his claws are arranged there.
Yeah, he looks pretty awesome. I mean, I remember when I did Ruby Sapphire, I did have a Metagross on my team, and I really enjoyed him. He's just been a really solid Pokemon, so I feel it's a pretty good choice for a Mega Evolution. Now, what do you guys think about the Primal reversions? They didn't mention it in the new trailer, but I thought we'd get Ted's opinions on the fact that there's this new semi-Mega Evolution for the legendaries.
They've confirmed Kyogre and Groudon to have those. Have they shown Rayquaza with one of those yet?
They haven't yet, but I'd be shocked if they didn't.
Yeah. Mechanically, I'm guessing that they're going to function almost identically to all of the other Mega Evolutions in the game, just because I feel like it would be kind of weird to have a mechanic like this exclusive to just a handful of Pokemon. But, just conceptually and design-wise, I think they look really, really cool. Like, Groudon and Kyogre have always been some of my favorite legendaries, just because on top of being really powerful. Like, the first time I played through Sapphire, Kyogre basically carried my team through the Elite Four. But also, just they've always looked really cool. So, I really dig the way that they are coming off in these Primal evolutions. So, I'm probably just going to be abusing those once again when I get to the main story in the game.
Nice.
Nothing wrong with that. Now, one of the things I noticed, because I've been taking notes for the analysis coming up for this new trailer, and I noticed that the as you were saying before, Ted, that the gym leaders all have a lot more personality to them. That actually spreads out to their gyms themselves. Like, you get a much better sense of the gym leaders, like what they're all about, because Brawly's, you can see all this exercise equipment on there around him. Of course, you have the more of a better hot spring setting for Flannery. It's really cool how they're really, like, it's almost more so than X and Y, really bringing out the personalities of these gym leaders.
Yeah, I could definitely agree, because, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and I can't remember a single one of X and Y's gym leaders right now. But these redesigns especially are really sticking with me for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Especially like the moment in the trailer where Flannery just sort of yells at you. That's been sticking in my brain ever since I saw this yesterday.
Yeah, no, I'm just really looking forward to rediscovering, kind of all these gym leaders and just kind of the Hoenn region in general. I mean, I actually had fallen out of Pokemon when Gen 3 came out, so I skipped it initially, and then I actually went back to it after Gen 4 to go back and help, complete my Gen 4 Pokedex, and I was astonished by just how instantly I fell in love with it. So it's weird, because I went back to it from a future generation and actually liked it more. And I'm just really looking forward to kind of rediscovering this region and this whole game in general. So I'm glad the gym leaders are getting more personality, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Hoenn's going to look like with the Pokemon X and Y graphic engine.
From what I can see so far, it's looking quite gorgeous. I mean, it's really well designed. I haven't seen much of the... I've noticed they haven't really shown much of the water section, so we'll see how they're going to be handling that.
Yeah.
Because that is, I believe, the most common complaint is just how much freaking water there is in Hoenn.
Yeah. At the beginning of the trailer, they show like a little art design map of the Hoenn region, and it looks mostly the same, except for the fact that during those surfing sections on the right side of the map, which people tend to complain about, there seems to be a lot more like islands there than there was before. So I think that they've heard the surfing complaints at some point, which I don't mind. The surfing never really got on my nerves as much as it got onto other people's, because it's just basically the same as walking, and at that point in the game I always have a bag of 99 repels anyway, so running into tentacles all that much didn't bother me too bad. And I always thought that the diving underwater mechanic in Ruby and Sapphire was really, really cool. Like, being able to explore under the water, and maybe just be the amount of times Little Mermaid was played at my house, but I always thought that was a really cool area, and I was kind of sad when it was gone completely in Gen 4, and it was sort of in Gen 5, but it was not nearly as utilized as it was in Gen 3 for sure.
I kind of blame myself for my hatred of the water sections, because when I was playing it, I was still under the idea that it was like, no, I don't want to skip any battles. I want to get in every battle so I can get all the experience I can, no matter how little it is. So I never used repels, and God, that was dumb.
Oh, yeah, not worth it.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. So I don't feel like I'll have as much trouble with it as before, just for the sheer fact that I'll have some repels with me this time around. I'm not going to put up with that crap. One of the other things I noticed as I was going through, and I'm not quite sure what this means. It might be more than I think, but in the Elite Four section, when they're showing you the fight against Phoebe, the Pokemon they show her using is not Dusclops, it's Dusknoir, which is from Gen 4, which, that, of course, that never appeared in the originals. So I'm kind of curious, like, what other, like, are they going to introduce other Pokemon throughout Gen 3, or at least if they get an evolution after Gen 3, will those Pokemon be able to be caught or used in the main game? It's very weird. I mean, what would you guys think about that, being able to use later Pokemon during the remake's main game?
I actually would like that quite a bit, because if there was one issue I did have with Gen 3, or at least Ruby and Sapphire, this was less of an issue in Emerald, but In Ruby and Sapphire, at the very least, there were 202 Pokemon in the Hoenn Dex, and that's even less than there were in Gen 2, where there was 251. And it was more so annoying back in the day because you had to buy like 6 different games and a GameCube GBA connector cable if you really wanted to try to catch them all. But I think that if they are going to bring in other Pokemon from across the series, you know, bring in more Gen 1 and Gen 2 Pokemon, some Gen 4, 5, and 6 Pokemon, I would be totally okay with that, because having a large variety of Pokemon to pick and choose from is part of what makes the series so fun, and I think it's also part of why Black and White 2 and X and Y have been so well received recently. So if they could do that, you know, add in a handful of Pokemon, it doesn't have to be much, like maybe, you know, make it 300 for the main story and open the floodgates afterwards. I'd be totally okay with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I especially agree about Pokemon X and Y, that a big reason of why it was so well received was because you got to see all these, you know, Generation 1, 2, you know, etc. Pokemon in amazing 3D, you know, for the first time ever. So, you know, I think if that had only been limited to Gen 6 Pokemon at first, that wouldn't really have been quite as well received. So, you know, I know everyone's must have been happy when they first, you know, encountered Pikachu in Pokemon X and Y toward the beginning of the game. So, yeah, I totally agree that, you know, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire should have, you know, a handful of Pokemon from other generations, just to kind of, you know, spread the love a bit and not only have things from Gen 3.
Yeah, I definitely got the most pleasure from that, because just, you know, every area you went to in X and Y, there was something new. So you never got bored. It's not like, oh, I've got, you know, the 6th damn Pidgey in the 6th route and just keep repeating over and over and over again. And that never really happened in X and Y, and I applaud it so much for that. So I wouldn't mind at all to have that same sort of thing transferred over here. At least, you know, even if it is just branching out between the first 3 gens and filling out the Pokedex a bit more that way. But, you know, even if they bring in some later Pokemon, that'd still be like a cool little surprise, especially like if they do it for like newer areas that they added to the game specifically. But it's funny you brought up Pikachu though, Ash, because, well, I hope you like cosplaying, because we got all kinds of it here.
Yeah, right?
I didn't really take part in contests that much. I think I did it once or twice. Don't remember cosplaying as a bit of it. I'm pretty sure that's new. But, yeah, what do you guys think of that little detail?
The designs are cute, I guess. The thing about contests is that it was its own separate thing, and you know, it was an alright minigame, I suppose, but the thing is that it never really had an awful lot of impact on the main game itself, and that's always sort of been a thing about Pokemon games, is that they'd have this side thing in them. Like, they had the contests here and in Gen 4, and the movie studio thing in Black and White 2, and stuff like that. I've never felt too compelled to go and do them, because, you know, it's not like they had any impact on anything. So I don't expect there to be too much of a reason to go through this in the main storyline, but the Pikachu designs are cute, I suppose, and it looks like a fun little side distraction that some people might be able to get caught up in, because even though it doesn't really appeal to me, per se, I know a lot of people who, you know, can't get enough of the contests for some reason. So, you know, I'm sure those people will be happy, definitely.
I usually ignore these things, like the music video making in Pokemon X and Y, and the cosplay here. I mean, the Pikachu designs we see in the trailer are adorable, and I think it's a cool feature. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who get a lot of use out of it. I won't be one of them, but hey, you know what? Might as well add in more content for, you know, more diverse content for, you know, more diverse players. I mean, there's certainly nothing wrong with it, and even if I won't use it, I'll certainly enjoy seeing what people come up with using it. Part
of me really hopes that you can, like, cosplay every Pokemon in the game. I'm pretty sure it's just limited to Pikachu. That seems like the most obvious thing, but, I mean, even if at the very least, I kind of want to use Luchadora Pikachu in the main game.
That would be pretty awesome. Luchadora Pikachu
would be awesome.
Versus Halucha from X and Y. I want to see that now.
Oh god, Pikachu would win, electric type.
Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, well, it'd be awesome, but short at the very
least.
That would be really cool, and being able to cosplay any Pokemon would be amazing. I mean, I can only imagine Groudon with a with a silly hat or bow or something like that.
Maybe that's how they could make contests a little bit more interesting. Is that as you participate in the contest, you unlock new cosplay options for different Pokemon. So let's say you win this contest. Hey, here is a sailor uniform for Lucario. You could pop in that and do other contests and just unlock more content that way. And I don't know. I can see that becoming really addicting just to see all the different outfits. The other thought I had was they showed Pokemon Amiya's back in the trailer as well, and Pikachu being dressed up as that. So maybe they'll, actually will have contests have a purpose this time around and have it connected to Pokemon Amiya and the happiness and all the benefits you got from that system.
That would be pretty cool because I didn't touch Pokemon Amiya too much in X and Y, but I know a lot of people did. And if you tied that in with the contest as well, you'd have this one feature bridging the gap between the battling side and the contest side, because Pokemon Amiya did, like, if you raised your Pokemon's happiness in that, they'd do stuff like get critical hits more often, or occasionally they'd survive a blow they would normally KO to. So, I think that actually would be really cool.
But I guess the feature that they seem to be just pushing the most, and I'm kind of surprised about this because I didn't really care about it when I played the original games, is secret bases. And, I mean, did you use it that much, Ted? Because I don't think Ash and I did at all.
Oh, I love the secret bases. It's just, it might have something to do with the fact that I was like, when did this come out? Like 2001, 2? I was like 9 at the time that Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire came out. But I just love the idea of having this little hideaway that you can sort of go into. Because if there was one feature about Gold and Silver that I liked, it was the ability to customize your room. And, you could get, like, little toys and stuff like that, but it was always super limited. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of options you could do for that. The secret bases, gave you so much more you could do, because not only could you find your own little hideaway in a bush or a cave or something like that, but you could get so much stuff. And it was actually a genius move on the developers' part, because, in Pokemon, I have a tendency to just sort of stockpile money, and I don't have any real reason to... I don't have any worries about that by endgame, but, I was spending so much money on secret base junk. Like, a Mudkip doll, I need to buy that. That, by the end of the game, I'm going to the Elite Four, and I'm about to buy my customary, like, 50 full restores or whatever, and, I don't only have enough money for, like, 3. Or what have, and it was a great way of balancing the income in that game. But just overall, even more than that, I just thought it was really fun, and I think they're even doing more with it in this case, because they say, be your own gym leader, and I think at one point they had like other trainers in your secret base, if I remember correctly. So that seems really cool to me, because then it really does sort of feel like you are your own gym leader, and that just seems awesome to me.
Yeah, if there's one feature I really like about that, it is that whole make your own gym leader thing. And they seem to have items specifically made to make it feel like a gym if you have visitors come in there, because they have the little steps that curve you around and guide you through places. They have they even have the little panels from the first game where you step on one and you're non-stop spinning until you hit the next one. So you could even do like little puzzles in your gym too. And then you're right, it does seem like you might be able to set up NPCs for whoever comes in to battle, because there is I believe I saw a little clip there where it looked like an NPC and somebody talked to it and the battle began, unless that was actually the gym leader. I'm not quite sure how it worked out because I think it was all in Japanese. But just the fact that, like, I've been wanting to become a gym leader for years. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time in Pokemon games, and to have it be there and have me do it at least by proxy, just by setting up my own team and saying, hey, everybody can challenge this gym, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. That just sounds like a blast.
Yeah, no, it does sound really fun. I totally see the appeal there. I do fear that it's going to kind of fall into that abyss for me of just being something too outside of the main game for me to bother with, because I don't play Animal Crossing either, and it seems similar to that. But, I do totally get the appeal, and who knows, maybe I'll completely get pulled in by it. But yeah, I mean, like you, Derek, I don't really remember secret bases from the original game, and that might be because I went back to play it just to fill out my Pokemon in Gen 4 and kind of ignored all the side content. But, I'll definitely check it out, and, if I like it, I'll keep using it. But I can already see, just knowing my personal gaming habits, it may be something that goes ignored for me.
Well, I feel like I have to do it because you know, there you can make your own QR codes and send it out so people can visit your secret base. So
that's true.
So yeah. I feel like, well, I definitely have to do this because I have to make a gym. I have to make that QR code available, and because I know there are people who's going to be like, I want to battle you, and like you don't always have the time to battle every person. Yeah. So like, here, have this QR code, battle my proxy, and you know, I can see that being a lot of fun.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, no, I could too, yeah.
I guess the only question left is, you know, since we can make our own gyms, what type gym would you be?
All types. Because really, the thing about those guys, why only use water types? There's like electric type Pokemon in the route right before you. Why would you? No, that's a terrible idea. Why? But if I did have to pick one, I'd probably go with ghost types, because a lot of my favorite types are Pokemon are ghost types.
Yeah, I mean, again, you just kind of touched on how silly and easy it would be, but I'm definitely a water type, guy. My favorite Pokemon ever is Vaporeon. I just love water types in general, so I would probably be a water type gym. But at the same time, if I had the chance, I would, certainly, set my team up with, across various different types.
No, I'm with you guys. Like it never makes sense, and everybody's always like, well, I'd have a varied team and make it more interesting. But as far as my favorite type, I'd probably have to go with dark types. I don't know. There's designs always appeal to me the most. I find it just something really cool about them, and they can do all. I don't know. It's always a really interesting type ever since they were introduced in the second gen. But I think I can get around that whole single type gym, but you also want to have a balanced team. Is like, okay, I'll get just a bunch of dual types.
Oh yeah, you could do that.
I think that'd be a nice little way to get around it, so you can actually have like different typings in there, so you can try to counter those weaknesses, but you still keep that theming. And I think that'd be a lot more fun, is to challenge yourself to find a good team that is just one type, along with a possible dual type, in order to challenge somebody, just because it is traditional in the sense of a gym leader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now, darn it, Derek, now I've got to do that too. Crap.
Yeah, and Derek, you brought up a good point. I probably am going to have to make like a gym, like a secret base in a gym, just for people who want to battle us. I didn't think about that.
Well, I mean, everybody's going to be trading it out. People are going to challenge my gym and all that stuff. So I think it'd be fun, just a nice little way to interact with people and do all that kind of thing. But
totally.
Yeah, but I guess that pretty much covers all the new stuff that we could see, at least on the surface level of the new trailer. But any final thoughts, guys?
Just that I am really excited for the game. Gen 3 and Gen 6, aren't exactly my favorites. Those go to Gen 2 and Gen 5, honestly. But, I did really enjoy both games, and I feel like, especially with the remake, they have the benefit of hindsight, and they can sort of look back at the different things about Gen 3 and, to a lesser extent, Gen 6. And, sort of fix things, tweak things. But as a whole, Gen 3 was an incredibly solid game. I still love it to this day. So, I'll have fun either way. So I'm looking forward to this one in general. It's just, I'm pretty pumped about it, honestly.
Yeah, same here. I'm really pumped about this, and I'll probably get Alpha Sapphire.
Oh, me too.
And, yeah, you too?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really pumped about it, and again, I'm just looking forward to revisiting the Hoenn region, and I'm particularly excited about the soundtrack. Gen 3 had my favorite soundtrack in the series, and I like the music style in X and Y, so I'm pretty excited to see how they're going to merge that with the Gen 3 soundtrack.
Well, I can tell you that the trumpet instrument will get more use than probably all the others combined.
Yeah, it's probably very true, definitely.
Well, whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I guess is up to taste, I suppose.
Either way, I think there's a lot of things to look forward to for this game. I definitely as it gets closer, I am getting a lot more excited for it. I really think they're doing something interesting this game. It's good to see that they're evolving X and Y's engine as they're doing this remake. So you get a nice mix of this old and the new, and I think that's what has me the most excited for it. Alright guys, well I think that covers it for our discussion of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I want to thank Ted for joining us today. Definitely suggest checking out BrainScratch commentaries with Ted, Johnny, Ryan, Lewis. They have some great stuff, great insights, and just really funny at times. In fact, we actually have a clip from their Pokemon Crystal playthrough.
It's dark. Screw it. I am tired of this. I am going to man my way through the dark. There is no boogeyman here, just me. Man my way through it.
I know that one day Veronica and I are going to get married on top of a mountain. And there's going to be flutes playing and trombones and flowers and garlands of fresh herbs. And we will dance till the sun rises, and then our children will form a family band, and we will tour the countryside, and you won't be invited.
Once again, thank you, Ted, for helping us out with Pokemon.
No problem. It was an honor to be here.
I don't know if we're worth all that, but...
Hey, you are to me.
Hey, well, I'm glad you felt that way, and yeah.
Well, that's very kind of you, and no, thanks a lot for joining us. We had a great time.
I did too.
It'd be great to have you guys, you and any of the other guys on here again, just talk about, well, whatever's coming out. There's plenty of games coming out this year.
Yeah, man, so much games. My wallet, my poor wallet.
But yeah, we'll have a link to BrainScratch commentaries channel in the description below, so be sure to check that out. And of course, thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And until next time, guys, bye.